Hey guys, Matt Wanka here with another RPG discussion. Today, I've been thinking about this one for a bit. Today, I want to talk a little bit about imagination. Now, we all know that imagination is really, really important when it comes to role-playing games. You need to be able to focus and have it be where instead of a bunch of people around a table talking, you guys are actually walking through some abandoned dungeon or in some creepy forest, or the person that you're talking to, instead of just being some guy hidden behind a DM screen looking at some numbers, is actually a damsel in distress, an evil sorcerer, a king bent on world domination. There's a lot of things that you need to do for imagination to make the game work, because otherwise you're just like rolling dice or whatever, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be off playing a video game, because then it just becomes without imagination, it just becomes numbers and little figures on the table. And yeah, that's not fun. Imagination makes D&D fun, and that's really important. But imagination is a lot more complex than that in how it works with D&D. So, because complexity makes things complex, we need an analogy to help us simplify things. And so, here's the analogy. Imagination is like a horse. Yeah, you can get on a horse, and you can ride that horse, and it's easy, and you can easily get on that horse. You can go however far you want. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to see all the different things. But if you're not careful, if you're not in control of that horse, it's hard for you to be able to get anywhere useful. If you're giving that horse free rein, it's going to buck and it's going to gallop and it's going to be just playing around, frolicking, and you're not going to get anywhere. So let's get back to imagination. While imagination is important in D&D, wild imagination isn't. It's okay to have like a random crazy idea that, just makes your world unique, makes your character unique. Recently we had a character, I think he retconned it away from his character, but he loved to cook, but was horrible at it. And that was just a characterization he had just made, probably on the spot, maybe he had thought about it for a bit, but a lot of his characters, just some of his quirks that came from that, were really cool, and it was just a bit of wild imagination. You wouldn't normally come up with a character like that. That doesn't really make sense in the world of characterizations. But it was fun, it was crazy, and it was small enough that we could just work with it. But then, there's bigger things that wild imagination can do. For example, my wild imagination put a geosynchronous moon centered on Blackwater Bay. I don't know. I haven't done anything useful with that yet. So far, it's just been a thing, but I haven't been able to entirely justify it in the world. And for all I know, later when I finish hammering out exactly this world that we live in, that might not be a thing anymore. I might have to get rid of that. Somebody wildly imagined an infinite coffee fountain, and that's why Blackwater Bay is black. No, it's not. That's wild imagination. Yeah, it was funny the one time, but that's not what happens in my world. That's too big. That's too big of an imagination. And my first character was all about wild imagination. I had a guy, I noticed how useful the perception skill would be. So my first character, Kanishtar the Cleric, was spec'd for perception, and he could notice anything. But because I thought that would be a bit unfair to the DM, I made him crazy so he wasn't going to tell anybody. And he was like really, really crazy. And it didn't work. The rest of the party just kind of ignored me, and I went off and did random things, and the DM just kept bringing me back in because he thought it was a little bit funny, but I wasn't useful at all. I wasn't able to interact with the party. And so my wild imagination led me off to do a different game than the rest of the party, and I realized that I had to pull back on the reins on this imagination for the character, and I toned down the crazy, and I got to be a little bit useful, and it made it a lot more fun for me when I could be going in the same group and at the same speed as everybody else. I think it's natural when you're starting out playing D&D or other RPGs to have your imagination running wild and going everywhere. And that's fine, everyone goes through it, but you have to realize, and I think it's like a big thing, like the big step in maturing as an RPGer, which I don't know if that's a real term, a gamer, I suppose. A big step in maturing is knowing that you have to tone it down, and you have to keep that under control. You have to be able to imagine at the same speed as everybody else, as I said. Be able to imagine in the genre that the game's playing in. I tried to do a noir type, mystery, and that didn't work because everybody else was off doing fantasy. And if I had told people what I was trying to do, I think I would have been able to have them be able to play along a little bit better. We have, certain of the DMs that we have in our group. Some of them do really crazy things, and when you're having somebody who's doing really crazy things, you can do really crazy things alongside of it. And, it's a lot of fun when you're meshing and you're just galloping at breakneck speed. But when you're trying to tell a serious story, when the DM has something that they want to accomplish by this campaign that they're doing, some plot point in their world, this, world-changing event for the big story, having your imagination run off into new places makes that really hard on them. And it makes it impossible for a group to really function and get together and work well. And so, do I have solutions? No, I don't have solutions. Right now, my gaming group is still really new, and a lot of them still have imaginations that aren't tamed yet, and I'm not quite sure how to fix it, other than, use this analogy and explain to them what's going on. I know that I have a lot more fun when I'm, riding the horse and controlling this imagination horse, and being able to look ahead and see, okay, we've got some clear space right here, being able to gallop will be fine, and then there's other times when you can't gallop, and you need to take it slow. And, players play differently. That's why it's a social game, as opposed to, some computer game that you can play by yourself. Technically, you can play D&D, mechanics-wise, by yourself, but that would be no fun, because all the fun is in the imagination of you and other people getting together and galloping along. And it's good to find people who share that same speed of horse, who share the same style of riding, who share the same trails that they like to ride on. Keep in mind, this is all about analogy. And if you can find that group, and you can get that group working together, even if one person wants to go off and do something a little bit different, they can be brought back in. And everybody together can have a lot more fun. So those are my thoughts that I'm going to leave with you. If you have any questions or comments or ideas about this topic, please leave them down below. And yeah, if you are a wild imagination person, or if you've gone through that state, hit the thumbs up and let me know that you understand where I'm coming from on this. But I think that's going to be it for this week, guys. If you stay online, I will see you next time. Peace out.